Hello and welcome to Joyless Gaming, and I've been putting this off far too long. Time to see if I can finish the Dark Souls trilogy. I'd heard about the Sellsword Twin Blades, so I started off as a mercenary, because, well, I like dexterity. Start of the game was absolutely horrible. The controls in particular were just so sluggish. Quite unpleasant, and I even died to the tutorial boss, which is quite embarrassing, I guess. But it turns out what was going on is that there was a forced VSync issue with the game that I had to go into the NVIDIA control panel to disable VSync to drastically lessen the input delay that was arising from that forced VSync. It certainly made things better, but not amazing. I won't say that's the only reason I died to the tutorial boss, or also to Vort, but I think it contributed. As it was solved in short order after I got to the undead suburbs. Speaking of which, got airlifted by some old friends, and then I met a new friend who would then turn me into a prune. But I had to backtrack through High Wall first to free Grey Rat because I kind of forgot about it. I also should mention I missed a bunch of the invaders early game and potential summons because I didn't want to waste embers if I was going to keep dying, but eventually I would have a somewhat limitless supply of embers. I met Siggy the Onion on the way to meet a giant for a friend, and he gave me a beer after we beat a demon together. And then I found some Dark Souls 2 references. Anyway, onward to a new career as a lumberjack. There were lots of tree balls and butt stomps, but I managed to actually beat this one without dying this time. And it was really just to get the transposing kiln to make boss items, which I didn't use most of. Onward through the road of sacrifices to the crab swamp. Now, because I didn't know this area, I didn't know where or how to cheese the exiles that were outside of Farron Keep, so I actually fought them both. And it went a lot better than I expected it to. But it was also through here that I was to go and fight the Crystal Sage, which also went better than I expected it to. I mainly just ran it whichever one was closest once I got to the second phase. It was actually only later that I realized that you can tell which one is the real Sage because they do purple magic. Now, this was one of many occasions where I would wander off to some location to try and farm a whole bunch of souls, so if I ended up having too easy a time for you, it's probably because I was over-leveled, although I don't really think you can ever be over-leveled in this game. I climbed out of the poison swamp to fight the stray demon. It actually grabbed me, but I was lucky. It didn't throw me off the bridge. I don't know if this counts as a boss, but I beat it the first try, so yay. It's time to head on towards the Cathedral of the Deep and its awful cemetery that you have to wander through, but I had artillery support, so that was nice. And then I had to go across the rooftops because it just can't open the front door. My brain really doesn't work, so after having unlocked the shortcut, I went back to fight the Abyss Watchers. It went okay, even got help from other Abyss Watchers in the first phase. But the second phase, a lot of those lingering fire effects caught me off guard. When I decided to go for the second attempt, I got hard, and it went a lot better. Yay, catacombs with regenerating skeletons. That was everyone's favorite part of the first game, wasn't it? And was back to the cathedral, dodging a giant and some horrible monstrosity. Wandering through sludge to what I thought was the Deacon's boss fight. And so I turned around to leave it for later, but it turns out that was just an item down there. And then I had to go back onto the rooftops and climb over rafters, because that was everyone's favourite part of Dark Souls 1 as well, wasn't it? I jumped down to dodge some worm people and make a bridge so I could finally open the front door. And then I sort of found out that I was actually going the wrong way towards the boss fight. I also, because I did this, didn't bump into patches until much later. So this time, yes, I was able to summon help for the deacons to function mostly as a distraction, but I did pretty well against them because the twin blades hit in a pretty decent arc, so I could hit a lot of enemies at once. So, back down to Bone Town. I finally got the first bonfire, which you have to go through so much to get there. And then, you know, skeletons, rats, slimes, bone wheels, and some dickhead invader. And after chopping down the bridge, I died to the wandering demon there twice before getting past. But another bonfire and I can wander further into the deep, dark depths of hell and meet Shai Hulud. But it died because of the local artillery. Didn't want to keep wandering around down here at the moment, so I went back to Bone Town to take on the Skeleton King. Now, I knew what the gimmick was, and even if you didn't, I think it becomes pretty obvious with the glowing gold bracelets. But he moved around a lot more than I thought he would, and it was actually quite hard to get the hits in. But at least I managed to beat it. To Winter Wonderland and a horrific guard dog. And the horrific locals, because I hated going through here. This windy streets with just enemies you have to go past. That's why they invented the hidden body sorcery. Now, despite not having bumped into patches, Siggy was still stuck down the well, so I had to go and grind out some souls to buy the armor after triggering patches at Firelink. And then went back to Irithyll, wandered through a sewer, and somehow Siggy was there ahead of me. And because I didn't realize how the things worked, I actually sent Siggy onwards, and that caused Grey Rat to die in the sewers, which was unfortunate. Anyway, went past everyone's favorite Dark Souls 1 reference, up another windy street full of enemies, yay. And once I unlocked all of these shortcuts, I decided, hey, go back and beat the Demon King. That's what people said to do with Grey Rat, right? Except I just got him killed by doing it. But I got help from the Great Swamp calculator for the old Demon King and did it first try. Because I hated Irithyll so much, I decided to continue exploring the Demon Ruins, which was a terrible idea. So, back to Irithyll, stopped faffing about. I once again got hard. And I didn't keep good track of Sullivan's health during the fight, so I actually ended up being quite surprised when I noticed how low it was, and yeah, once again, managed to succeed on the first try. Oh yay, you must go over rooftops with Silver Knight archers. That was definitely everyone's favourite part of Dark Souls 1, wasn't it? Right, this place probably was, actually, everyone's favourite part of Dark Souls 1. But enough of that, I decided to do a bunch of farming and change my fashion and go into Irithyll Dungeon. And the jailers here are, I think, quite possibly the worst enemy in the entire game. The bloody health reducing aura and instant startup, grab, poke, whatever the hell they do with their brand. Oh, I hate it. And there's basilisks down there as well, because why not? But it was all worth it just to get to this Dark Souls 2 reference, yeah? I found Siggy down here, freed him, he was quite grateful. But I had to go and do him another favour not long after, although, in honesty, he was helping me as well. I knew of the gimmick with Yorm and getting Storm Ruler, so I just went straight for it. And then Siggy and I just farted on Yorm until he died. It was actually almost hitless until right at the end. And then poor old Siggy just carked it right after. I will honour him by one day also becoming an onion. Alright, back to Anor Londo. And I think I consider this to be the worst boss in the base game. I got very lucky this first time, but I have actually played the game subsequently, and I hate this boss. But I just ran in, slashed away at the worm thing, and I guess I got lucky because he never did the arrow spam, so then it was immediately getting teleported away to meet a dying woman and then have to fight a tall girl with bad posture. I actually died the first time because I didn't know how long that tornado attack would go for, and it just kept on going and going and I didn't get away in time. But at least this one had a short run back, I guess. The second time I just stuck my face in her ass and it seemed to work. The only really positive thing about Lothric Castle is the chunks. When I got to where the guard dragons were, I didn't know what the intended path was, so I actually sat there sniping one of them until that apparently killed them both. Until I later found the pus of dragons growing out of their asses. Pushing through the castle, and I just spammed attacks on the Dragon Slayer armor until it died. Aegon even helped a little bit, but not much. And since I was on a boss slaying high, I decided to drop down to the Consumed King's Garden to fight said king, with help from the layabout from Firelink. Cyrus was a bit weird, probably because I had the summon, but he often just seemed to prefer to crawl into the corner and scratch at the walls. I am not sure why I pulled out the bow at the end, but it also led to Hawkwood stealing the kill from me. Well, first try. Now, I knew about the dark secret hiding behind Osiris, and so wandered into the Untended Graves, and I was actually surprised to find a summon sign there from the weird NPC that I killed at Firelink. He was there to help, briefly, but at least I beat this Gundyr on the first try. It was important to come here, but we'll get back to that later. So it was back to go through the Grand Archives and the other Crystal Sage, who was honestly the least of the problems with this place. And I managed to lose a couple 100,000 souls while trying to get through here. But after I managed to push through the NPC gank team at the top and unlock the shortcut, I felt the need for a change of scenery, and with careful meditation, my new destination appeared. Literally. I was a bit of a headless chicken with the Ancient Wyvern. I knew what the gimmick was, even reading the messages that tell you to plunging attack, but I didn't know the way to get there, and it was just a nightmare getting through. If it weren't a FromSoft game, it would be this action set piece, but because you can die so easily, you don't even get to watch the boss and see what's going on. But eventually, right, so that made me think, go back to Lothric Castle and fight the Twin Princes. And, I agree with the younger prince. I was definitely thinking the fire shouldn't be lit. He didn't seem to realize that I had no interest in linking the fire, and he just sicked his brother on me. And I don't know what was going on with this one, but I kept on dodging the big overhead attack at apparently the wrong time, but it looked like I should have not been hit by it. Oh well. But even a piggyback ride from his little brother couldn't stop me. So I went off to do a lot of soul farming, and then I wandered back to Archdragon Peak. And against my better judgment, I rang the bell to summon the storm. And despite the camera's best efforts to screw me over, I actually managed to kill the chicken first try, and it'd be almost immediately wrecked by the Nameless King. I gave it another go, but got barbecued by the chicken twice. And somehow my brain went from here to the DLC, and it was probably like a fire-ice dichotomy. Of course, I was shredded by the crow guarding the settlement, as is the tradition in the painted world. And I guess it shredded my brain too, because I figured, you know what? I had a way out. I'd killed all the lords. I could go face the final boss right now if I wanted, and I very much wanted. And lucky for me, because of my life choices, I actually had help. Although she wouldn't be happy if she knew I was just using her. But at least she didn't live to see my inevitable betrayal. So with the memento of the untended graves, I summoned the Firekeeper and was able to put out the light for the last time. And it was nice to get there and actually say, yes, I finished the game. But overall, despite dying more to Nameless, I found that the chicken was definitely the worst part of the fight, with the camera screwing you non-stop. If it stayed dead after you beat it once, and you could just skip to the second phase every time, that would have been a lot less frustrating. But Nameless himself, despite being tough, didn't feel so BS as the chicken did. So because I decided if I was going on, I would keep going on, so I went back to the painted world, got my revenge on the Corvian Knight. This place reminds me of Resident Evil Village, so I hate it. I sort of accidentally obliterated Sir Wilhelm. I didn't really mean to. I had to wander through a maze full of enemies and through a swarm of giant flies, just to turn a wheel so I could actually go and fight the boss. But first I thought, why not engage in some platforming from Soft's Vice? Because, it's awful. To get down to the depths of the painting, and my reward was an NPC fight with ad mobs. I just focused on the Grave Tender, and most of the wolves got caught up in the crossfire, if you can call it that. And I was able to finish him just as the Great Wolf came in, so I had a 1v1 with the Great Wolf, and that was a lot better than trying to fight two at once. So I went back upstairs to fight Frida. I invited Gale, but he was late to the party. And I was doing, I wouldn't say well, I was using a lot of healing, but I was right there, about to win, and my controller broke. Well, specifically the left bumper, which was pretty significant for my attack patterns. It really threw me off, and so right near the end of my first try victory, so it was one day and a new controller later, and there was also some other invader, but nobody cares about that. So I went from the ashes of Ariandel to the shit heap, and I hate it here as well. You can kill these angels haunting Dark Souls 2, but this area still sucks because it's a poison swamp. And all of this just to add a fan service outfit to the game. But at least the +3 rings are here. So after all that, finally getting to the first bosses of this DLC, and I had summons, and they tend to carry me most of the time anyway. And it was actually dangerous here because they nearly killed the demon from below while I was trying to kill the demon in pain. Because I understand that the second phase is better with the demon in pain dying first. But they both managed to survive, not just the first phase, but all the way through the fight. And bump into some old friends again for a ride down to the Devil's Anus. I don't get it. FromSoft doesn't like it when you just run past everything, and yet this area is designed to make you run past everything. Following that, I just wish I knew where I was supposed to go, because I hated having to get through all of these cursing hollows and the healing turtles and the butthole knights. And I finally met a sane person, and they just went and asked me to kill a dragon for them. I bet you open up and give me a bonfire. There was somewhere going through here that I missed an important step in the Lap Patches questline, so I wasn't able to get help from him. I also didn't get kicked down a hole, so that's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I swear I remember dying to Medea on the bridge, but apparently I didn't. My brain. Because I didn't really know what he was doing or what I was doing, but I got lucky and managed to kick him off first try. I think that'll bode well for the actual fight. I tried a lot of tactics for Medea, lots of weapons, tried the summon, tried without the summon. I only got one hit on my second attempt before I just got obliterated. The usual advised strategy is stay in front of him, but it's not really, shouldn't really be that. It should be dodge backwards to stay out of his reach. Like bait and punish kind of thing. Some of my earlier attempts, I'm surprised I lasted as long as I did. And I also didn't like that I missed a lot of punish opportunities because of lack of proper depth perception. But eventually I just switched back to my trusty old twin blades and, changed my armor, and on that attempt I pulled through. I even got the stun and critical to finish. So, yay. That took quite a while, but not as many attempts as I thought it did, because I guess they just took so long. Anyway, NPC nonsense again, because yay. The first time I even got too close to the droning wanker about my trespasses, and he had to run away from him while he was still finishing his speech. Just their NPC problems in general. They have infinite stamina, they don't have animation locks for certain spells. Don't give them boss-sized health bars either, because Half-Light sucks, okay? So it was up a lift, break an egg, witness the end of time. Just another day in Dark Souls. I don't know why Gale thought it was necessary to eat them. I just absorb souls when I kill them. And notice me using the Drang Hammers here, because I'd read that Strike was apparently good against him. The hammers are kind of slow, and I kept on committing to the two-handing attack. But I barely managed to get to the third phase on my first try, and then I immediately died. And I very nearly got him on the second try, and then kind of subsequently after that, I had a magic pixel death on the 5th attempt. But I eventually got there. It took fewer attempts than Medea. I kind of thought it was worse because I really, really, really hated this. But hey, I actually did all bosses in this game as opposed to Dark Souls 2. Yay. And speaking of Dark Souls 2, I probably didn't mention, but after the last video, I did go back and install the game again and get all of the achievements, which I have also done for Dark Souls 3, because I hate myself. But it's done. The depressed idiot can finish the Dark Souls trilogy. Bloody hell. I don't know if I want to share thoughts on the whole series, because people like these games and I don't, so I'm probably just going to say things that are going to annoy them, which I normally do, but honestly, if you've sat through this crap, then thank you for watching, and bye for now.